Hi, I'm Diane, and welcome to DMD Digest. Hi, I'm Diane, and welcome to DMD Digest. Today we're going to be talking about probiotics, what they are, what some side effects of probiotics are, prebiotics as well, just a little bit of information about them, about why we may need them, and just kind of an overview in general. I'll try to get into some specifics, but not go into too much detail. First of all, if any of you have turned on the TV, read a magazine, read a newspaper, talked to a friend, been on Facebook, been on Twitter, any type of social media, you've been inundated with probiotics. Just walking down your grocery aisle, you see all of these different types of probiotic dietary supplements, or you'll see products that talk about live bacteria, live strains. So what do we do with that? Why do we even need it? What are they? Probiotics are actually a type of bacteria in yeast strain. It's been around for forever. And actually, many years ago, nobody talked about probiotics because our food was sourced more naturally. We did not have the processing that we do today. We did not have all of our products with additional refined sugars and different additives, different pesticides that affect our food, how it's grown, how it produces. So when you're thinking of eating healthy or you're thinking of probiotics, you really do want to start with, well, where's the food coming from? If it's a plant, fruit or vegetable, you need to be cognizant of the soil. So the use of the pesticides and any chemical additive goes into the soil. The soil is used to help make the plant grow. Therefore, you are consuming whatever pesticides have been put into that soil, as well as looking at our meat. If you are a meat eater, or dairy, or if you just eat eggs, everything is grown in the soil or consumed. An animal is consuming a plant or another animal which has been exposed. So just some things about, I'm also going to be referencing some things, so I'm looking down, just making some notes and making sure I'm staying on track. So when we talk about probiotics and the cells in your body and your gut, and another word for it is your microbiome. And we know that about 90% of the cells in our body are microbial. And the microbes are just kind of a general term for bacteria, protea, and other molecular organisms. But the human microbiome is a collection of all of these microbes. And it's about 90% of our microbiome. What this does is affects your brain, your skin, your organs, your immune system, pretty much everything. So a lot of research has been done, And this is, I mean, just this whole field is so diverse with information. You can literally start Googling and pull up anything probiotic related, and you'll get pages of information that you don't really know what to do with. So I'm here to try to sort through some of it for you and try to make a little bit of sense for you. We may not even realize that we may need a probiotic. You're like, well, I don't have digestion problems, or I don't have intestinal gas, diarrhea, bloating, constipation, pain. I don't have achy joints. I don't have hair, skin, or nail issues. I don't have any of these things. So why do I need to even pay attention? Well, you don't need to pay attention, but might be useful for you, or perhaps you know someone that fits into any of these categories that I'm going to mention. For one thing, sugar. Sugar, unfortunately, happens to be one of my favorite foods. I love sugar, and usually it likes me back. But unfortunately, we have so many sources out there of sugar in our products. It actually amazes me. And I kind of do this for a living. So just for fun, read the back of a label of anything. Ketchup, what are you going to find? Corn syrup. Corn syrup is one of the worst offenders. It literally wreaks havoc in your entire gut, meaning once it hits your esophagus to your stomach, small, large intestine, the whole 9 yards. But we find sugar everywhere. It can be in mayonnaise, all of your condiments. I tell my family often, I might as well, it's like I don't want the condiment, even though I love them, but I might as well just take a few heaping spoonfuls of sugar and sprinkle it over my chicken. So kind of the same concept. Obviously, it's in our fruit juices, our sodas, alcohol, wine, beer, all of those things. Also, if you have a moderate consumption of it, it is interfering with your entire gut. It can lead to anything messing with your GI system can also interfere with your sleep. You have symptoms, you have gas, you have pain, you have bloating. That's going to interrupt your sleep. Antibiotics. Most of us know out there by now that antibiotics are not supposed to be prescribed for everything. They kill bacteria, hence the name antibiotic. They're not useful at all for viruses, fungal infections. It's a whole different thing to look for. Antibiotics completely wipe out your normal gut flora. In addition to causing other problems, and if you're female, you can relate to this because they do other things and wipe out all that flora as well. So some doctors have been more cognizant of that and might even suggest, hey, if you're going to be on this antibiotic, you might want to start eating healthier, or you might want to take an over-the-counter probiotic. And great advice, except the over-the-counter part. And we'll get to that a little bit later, or maybe even a whole nother webcast just to talk about what are good probiotics, what are not, what to stand clear of, what's okay. But anyway, antibiotics are bad news. Not eating enough fiber. So we know fruits and vegetables, whole grains, legumes, things like that, all very fiber rich. Not eating enough of that can also be a bad sign. Our gut bacteria, and we have thousands and thousands of bacteria in our whole gut system, which are good. Those are the good bugs. But in order to feed that bacteria, you have to put the right combination of nutrients and or probiotic into your system so they can feed off of that good, healthy food source. So if you don't have enough fiber, that's going to be detrimental. There's some research with looking at foods that are artificially colored, flavored, whether or not that impacts our gut flora. Water. And believe it or not, I'm going to do a whole webcast just on waters in general. Waters that have chlorine. Chlorine wipes out some of your natural flora, which hence interferes with your gut lining. Antibacterial soaps. Several years ago, I think the rage was everything was antibacterial. Little school kids were putting their hand sanitizer on their backpacks and book bags to carry with them, and the teachers, everyone has bottles of hand sanitizer everywhere. And then we all learned that, well, it actually has to be a certain percentage of alcohol in order to kill the bacteria. However, kind of the old saying, too much of anything is not good. What ends up happening is all the antibacterial soap kills the good bacteria that you want on your hands. If we don't have some of that, then it actually leads you to be more vulnerable to other skin conditions, different types of eczema, dermatitis, just a host of different things. So kind of knowing some bacteria may be good, don't kill it all off. Another thing is non-steroidal pain relievers over the counter. They like ibuprofen products, which would be Motrin, Advil, Aleve, which is a naproxen product. Those also interfere with the acidity in your stomach, which interferes with your gut flora, which hence can wipe them out, creating problems. So with that being said, there are some different things to look at when you are looking at probiotics. They don't always have to come as a supplement. The best way is actually to try to consume the most natural form of probiotic you possibly can. So as I was alluding to when I first started, years and years and years and years ago, probably caveman era, but certainly since that time, they didn't have all the pasteurization or processing. And back then, because refrigeration was not necessarily available, so they would use salt and other vinegars, other things to preserve their food, which ends up being a type of fermentation process. So actually, fermented vegetables are excellent for you. However, not a lot of people, except people like me, like fermented vegetables. Like I'm talking about sauerkraut, kimchi, different kefir, kombucha, those type of products that are fermented. As you know, often like if you're opening up a jar of kimchi, when you open it, it will foam sometimes and kind of bubble. It's because it's fermented. You can make your own fermented vegetables. Just getting a mason jar, you're really just putting the raw vegetable in there. You're adding some salt, water to cover it. You let it sit for kind of as long as you want. The longer it sits, the higher the fermentation, but it also kind of softens the vegetable up. So that's an option. Yogurts, as I mentioned, kefir is a good source as well. Watch the yogurt though, and I could do a whole session just on yogurts, because once again, you want it to actually have live bacteria in it. You really want to watch the sugar. You don't really want it to be any more than 4 to 6 grams of sugar at the most. You don't want it to have artificial colors or flavorings. You don't want it to have any type of processing. So if you start to go look at your labels, you're going to find that not a lot of brands of yogurt out there meet all of those criteria. It makes you a very smart shopper, but to be honest with you, it takes me a long time to go to the grocery because I'm reading all of the labels. Another thing is when you're looking at, because not all of us can ferment our foods and not all of us can grow every single fruit and vegetable or raise animals in our yard, especially if you live in a neighborhood that has an HOA, you're not going to be doing anything like that. So, well, then what do? So we are left with supplements and having to rely on other people to do that work for us, to research it, research the product, use an excellent lab, use natural ingredients that have been approved and non-GMO, vegan, if that's something of interest to you as well. And I'll get to that probably in the next session as well, where we're focusing on specific supplements, ones that through the research that I've found are more sound and may or may not be more expensive. Just kind of depends. One thing to consider though is when you're looking at your probiotic, you want it to have a high CFU. And CFU stands for the colony count that's contained in the actual capsule itself. So you also want to look at, and like I said, I'll go into detail at the next session, but you want to look at substrains, how many substrains it has, if it has a prebiotic. Prebiotics are kind of a whole different avenue. And when I first started researching this, I didn't even know that you really want your probiotic to have prebiotic in it. Well, what is that? Prebiotic is what is feeding the supplement that you're taking. So those bacteria that live in our intestines and throughout our gut need something to eat. So we may not be feeding it very well. And if any of you follow a standard American diet, I know for a fact you're not feeding it well. So the prebiotics are food sources. There's different types. Just some things right off the top of my head. Chicory root is a natural prebiotic. Asparagus is a natural prebiotic. There are several other things out there that work. So the better supplements will have a prebiotic in addition to the probiotic, because they need to be combined. Some of them have something called Nutriflora, which is a type of fiber that is put into the probiotic supplement. Before I get into my next topic, let's look at some other reasons, health reasons why people might want a probiotic. I mentioned things that the most common, I think, is you're on an antibiotic, you suddenly are having the adverse side effect of diarrhea or major gas or pain, or you end up with a vaginal yeast infection. None of those are good. And I think some of us, I've had them all, and that's not a good place to be. And some of us have like decided, no, I don't want the antibiotic. I'll just let my body fight this out, because the side effects of taking it were such a pain, to put it honestly. So you would look at probiotics to help the GI tract, to once again for skin, for immune system. There's some research out there that is associating certain strains of yeast to be possibly effective in weight loss, possibly improving cholesterol, blood sugar levels, things like that. So pretty diverse. But probiotics can come with some side effects. And because of what they're doing, if you think about it, you're eating yeast, a lot more strains of yeast, kind of the more the better. And yeast ferments, and those products produce gas for some people, bloating, which can be painful. They will move the food content through your intestine. So it generally does help to make you more regular, especially if you suffer from constipation. It can kind of make you too regular, which would cause some diarrhea. Not a pleasant side effect from your probiotic that you're taking to try to help you. Those are some things that some side effects that you can notice. Some people say that they have a lot of belching with it as well, which is just kind of a end product of that whole process that is occurring inside your intestine. Some of the prebiotics in it, and you kind of just have to experiment to know which one is going to be tolerable to you and which isn't. But as I said, some of the prebiotic, inulin is something that some of your supplements will list that it has in it. Inulin is generally from chicory root. So check that out. If you are taking a probiotic and you notice after a week or two, maybe longer, you are very gassy, you're really thirsty all the time, you just feel dry mouth, and you're having diarrhea and maybe a lot more intestinal discomfort, it likely is the prebiotic that's causing it. So you may have to eliminate that component or find a different prebiotic that does not cause those same symptoms. Sometimes people will talk about headaches that they get, and that can actually be because of the either increase or decrease in something called an amine. And amines are kind of associated with the whole prebiotic things that foods that are rich in pre and probiotics. Another thing is they can affect your histamine levels, all kinds of different things. So if you already have some health problems, if you are on heart medication, or you have kidney or liver problems already, if you have specific intestinal disorders like Crohn's or ulcerative colitis or diverticulosis, things like that, you should consult your physician or nurse practitioner before you decide to take these, as I stated, so that you kind of know what's helping, what's not, and would this be a good option for you. Another thing that I do that I find really super helpful, kind of confusing, but can be very super helpful, is to start keeping like a food diary, if you will, and write down when you start a new product, and try not to make too many changes all at one time. If you're trying to figure out what food it is that you're eating that you are associating a certain symptom with, then just eliminate that food item. Don't make several changes all at the same time, because then you're not going to know if that was the trigger or not. and then jot that information down. You might find that taking your probiotic on an empty stomach and not eating for 30 to 60 minutes afterward will work better for you, and maybe cause less side effect. So with that in mind, I know it's a lot of information, and as I said, our next session will be talking about the products kind of based on this year's research. What are some of the top supplements out there that I have either only probiotic or a combination of the pre and pro, as well as some specific things to look for as far as what bacteria what I want if I'm treating, so to speak, a UTI a urinary tract infection, or vaginal yeast infection, or if it's just more the constipation issues. We'll dive into that information a little bit more so I can steer you into what strains to look for, what strains may not be of use, and certainly, above all, be informed and don't waste your money buying something that you literally are swallowing and it's coming right back out and it's not doing you any good at all. And I look forward to being able to talk to you again. Thank you.